If I could take a picture of my brain, ashes in a field, and my mansion burnt to frames. Locked inside the basement is the people that I blame for the pain, and the field of smoking embers in the rain. Smoke settled and it always smells sulfur. Making offerings to circling vultures, killing all the parts of me that learn to dream in color, because keeping them alive, I mean they'd always have to suffer. Then I blinked and I got lost in an instant. I got so far and all it cost me was distance. Fire in the air, I made ash my kingdom and fell flat on my back from flipping off. Those systems not right. When I jumped I did not take flight. Now the voices in my head keep saying I got it right. I'm terrified of heights and I'm blind to all the lights. Tying around my neck, trying to put stars into my nights. Don't come wishing in my will, saying that you miss me and you hope I found myself. You and your well wishes, see you in hell. This keep your two pennies up in the jar to saw your shelf. Yeah, I don't know me no more. There's a couple people that I wanna see, but I'm trying not to get in trouble with my feet. Walk string of bad decisions.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy CJ, Internet Warlord here, coming to you live and loud from the great state of Meth, Dakota. That's Nova Rockefeller that I was playing there. Just really thought that was an awesomely created and produced video. She does a lot of great stuff. She does a lot of Tom MacDonald videos, but figured, I keep seeing her name at the end of all the Tom MacDonald videos, and I go and I click on her link, and I'm like, holy shit, this woman has got more talents in one hand than most people have in their whole body. So I just figured I'd give you guys a little taste of that. I always kind of like to see if and who and copyright claims and all that stuff. I mean, it's a hard work to go out there and be like, hey, I like this stuff, guys. Here's 10 seconds. What's up? It's Monday. You alive? I'm alive. We're alive. You're watching this. I don't know how your weekend was, but mine was okay. I mean, all things considered. Dog had diarrhea, though. Cleaning up dog crap at midnight's never fun, but, here we are. And, Monday. It's finally Monday. We're here last week of the shortest month here. Is it a leap year this year, too? I think it's a leap year this year, too. So I think we got an extra day. But, yeah, I'll tell you what, man. My weekend was not as bad as it could have been.
I wake up in the barracks, except for the trenches, but this battle is never just where I left it.
Oh, okay. All right. That song's called Genghis Khan, but all right. So I had a pretty decent weekend again, all things considered. I mean, my shoulder's kind of giving me some issues again, but, hey, it's bound to happen. Setbacks suck, but, I'll get through it. Feel free to use your booger pickers and your butt plugs to type out your comments if your brain noodle has any brain thoughts. For those of you that are fans of Miko Hayes, I actually got to talk to Miko this weekend, last night actually, or this morning, depending on what part of the world you're in. And he did a whole broadcast last night on sovereign citizens, and I gotta tell you, I love the topic. I love the topic only for a few reasons. I don't question, for example, I'll just show you guys what I'm looking at, right? Miko with Kirk Pendergrass. Now, Kirk, I've had my run-ins with this guy, okay? I don't think I've ever gone live with Kirk at all, but, when you talk to somebody like Kirk and you're going through a court matter, all these people that are in these groups, they treat it like they're the correct ones all the time, and the way they think is the only way it is, and there's no other possible alternative. Kirk Pendergrass reminds me of if Randy Davis decided to start talking about law, which he does, which in Constitution, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with talking about law, but you gotta it's their way or the freaking highway is always the key behind a lot of these people that they lead, they get kids home. You see them on their live feed. Oh, I get kids home. The fuck you do, man. Like, honestly, you were just addicted to meth like 10 years ago. Like, come on, dude. You don't get kids home. There's no courts and judges and people sitting there going, you get kids home. Now, again, I'm not claiming any individual does meth. It's hypothetical at best. But again, these people embed themselves into cases that are dealing with the family courts. So when Miko talks about sovereign citizens, I absolutely love listening because Miko knows enough about sovereign citizens to where he can see the crazy in it. But I like to go more into the deeper foundations of, because I didn't call it sovereign citizen movement. I called it more like frauds on the internet. You know, that was. I mean, again, I didn't know tomato at that point. You know, I just kind of said, okay, at the end of the day, these people think they're above the law. So I asked the questions. You know, do you think all laws apply to everybody? And that answer is obviously no. North Dakota laws don't apply to people in South Dakota. You know, some federal laws don't apply in certain states. So, no, the question's a trick question. Not all laws apply equally. Now, telltale signs of a sovereign citizen normally will involve, hey guys, I've got this money-making scheme here. And it normally involves finding 3 of your friends. And it's... You know, it doesn't provide anything of value or substance. For example, you can have legitimate multi-level marketing setups where you do makeup or you do beauty products. Women do all kinds of multi-level marketing. It's insane. I mean, a lot of men do it too, but a lot of women primarily do multi-level marketing. Hello, Anton. Appreciate you using your booger picker there. You know, like I said, these people are a whole different level, though. I mean, not only do they have these fake courts and these fake worlds, and if they, in their little circle, you know, like, for example, one thing that always bugged me is you have to believe so-and-so's story, and you have to promote so-and-so's story, and you have to say it exactly this way, and if you don't, we'll ostracize and shun you from this group. So it makes you believe that a lot of these groups are based upon fraud because they what they do is they get somebody to beat an opinion into, they beat you into a social pin, I guess, so to speak. I don't know, well, for a lack of a better word, they beat you down to the point where they'll say some of the most heinous things. I mean, again, take any of these sovereign citizens and question them, and you'll get a laundry list of things you'll be called. I've been called pro-pedophile. I've been called an asshole, a racist, a sexist, a xenophobic, a homophobic. Like, I've been called it all. I mean, so at the end of the day, these people all use the same tactics. It doesn't matter. Oh, they're a troll. They're just a troll. They don't have any viewers. Don't listen to their opinion. But then I got to remind you, in the real world, you know, yeah, I might have a very small viewership here on my platform. It's a small fledgling baby platform. That's a fact. But at the end of the day, I'm not hiding from that fact. So it's really just a dumb argument when these people go, oh, he's got no viewers. Well, I've got no viewers, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people know of me. You know of me. I mean, the ones watching me here know of me. Anybody that listens to state politics might know I ran for governor. I mean, anybody that knows about me might know a little bit about me, but they don't actually know me. And one of the things that bothers me is, like, you have to be friends with so-and-so and you have to talk nice about so-and-so. Well, it's like, no. If person A is okay and they don't do harm to anybody, they're just there, that's one thing. But person B might be telling people to put in legal paperwork, legal documents, getting the things from your court case that are, you know, should remain confidential, and then spreading that all over the internet and slandering you and you know, and meanwhile, they're doing meth in the back of a fucking semi, bitching about truck stop sandwiches and having to give blowjobs. These are all people that claim to be advocates out there in the world. You know? I mean, nobody wants to give a blowjob for a truck stop sandwich. Nobody. But these people are out there, and if they get involved in your case, you know, that's just the way the world works. You know, and you know, you got to be smarter. That's why with me, a lot of people hate me in this sovereign movement and the parental rights movement, because I call out bullshit faster than anybody. I don't let your scam come to fruition. I just call you a fucking scam from the get-go. And then after years later, it comes out that you're a scam. I go, hey, look, That's why I didn't associate with you. That's why I don't work for you. That's why I don't go to your events. That's why I don't promote your stuff. That's the facts of these people, and they get mad at you, and so they'll attack you. And I have no doubt that I'm sure in those circles they have plenty of things they could say about me where, oh, he's an asshole. Oh, he's a mean guy. He's a danger. He's a this. I've been accused of murder by one of the people that are very prominent, Francisca Amato Banfield. Say what you will about her. I could hate the woman. I could despise the woman. I could loathe the woman. But here she is, obviously doing something. I mean, not of anything productive value to society, but she's got her name out there to the point where we're all like, I wonder how she able to get that fraud going that far. Because if I try to do half of what she does, I'd be already sitting in the McPherson County Jail. And then, we got people that are too stupid to see the forest through the trees. So it's just like, well, yeah, I guess you're kind of fucked either way. So... But yeah, I got to talk to Miko, and again, Miko has done, journalist, proven record, has been to where he claims to write about. He's been to Ferguson, he went to Standing Rock, he's done a lot of work all across the country, so it was just a real pleasure to get to talk to him. And I hope he keeps his phone line thing going. Last time I put my phone line up, we ended up with what happened there. People just showing their unprofessionalism. Or showing their true character, but at the end of the day, the internet's gonna internet, and the internet warlord's not gonna let you not. So, I know what the internet does, but my point always will be that these sovereign citizens, there's a difference between what they do and, let's say, for example, somebody that's just learning the Constitution, somebody that's just out there saying, we the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this, the Constitution of the United States of America. So, or this Constitution of the United States of America, but either way, that doesn't make me a sovereign citizen, researching the Constitution. So I kind of want to make sure that we have a fine line between what a sovereign citizen is and somebody who is learning, studying, practicing constitutional history. And I mean, again, I admit I don't know everything. That's why, again, I tell you guys, hey, if you're seeing me read something, I might be learning it right as you're learning it. Because with the internet... What's up, little warlord?
Hi. I just want my snack.
You just want a snack?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. Well, after I'm done with this and I'm done talking about all the crazy people, then I'll come get you a snack, okay?
No, right now.
Oh, no, that's okay.
Right now, please.
No. After I'm done. Here, you can take this too with you. Go put that in your glamper. Why don't you listen? Are you being a good girl? I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to call Santa right away.
No.
Yep, I'm
No! No!
Okay, fine.
No!
Okay, fine.
Daddy, I just want it to play right here.
No, you can go upstairs.
No, right here.
You can go upstairs.
I want my snack.
You can get one when I'm done with this. What part of that didn't she get? She just doesn't get it, apparently.
Right now.
We will be right back on Internet Warlords, the war for the Internet.
Okay, not really sure what happened there on that last one. Yeah, I'm really not sure what happened with that last live. Facebook back Kirk.
Yeah, I know that nobody can hear me. What I do is I do my little bits, and I forget that there's a few watching. I do most of my stuff live here while I'm just sitting at the computer. I was just doing a clip about Miko Hayes here and kind of some of the similarities of what we've been through when it comes to the sovereign movement, when it comes to people in the sovereign movement. And again, I just appreciate the guy's work. So if I appreciate the guy's work, I can donate, and that's all the things. So again, what's up, Mr. Dingle? Appreciate you checking my audio there. I got a little thing on my thing here. I got a little thing on my thing. Can you get to check that out, Doctor? I got a little indicator here that tells me when my mic is off, and I got it all set where I can see when it's off, and then that sets up this thing here where I can start recording there. And you guys can see what I'm talking about, but you can't really hear what I'm talking about, and that's for stuff that I obviously want to release in a different capacity than live right now. But I was discussing some Miko Hayes stuff, and again, kind of the similarities of what we've been through as sovereign, not as sovereign. See, there's something they'll take out of context. Fucking idiots. But again, that we've both been through against sovereign citizens. So, you guys can see Dakota just little rug right here in the window. The cat got into this thing last night and took it off its center. But yeah, like I said, a lot of these sovereigns, they don't like to be called out. They don't. Well, I guess I can kind of give a brief recap. They don't like to be called out. They don't like to hear things that go against their beliefs. And again, nobody likes to hear that. The difference between, say, myself and them is I can be okay when evidence is provided I should view something differently. These people can be told, no, that's not how this works. You need to not do it this way. And these people are like telling the courts, no, you're wrong. We're right. Fix yourself. And it's weird because the court doesn't operate like that. So a lot of these people that claim to get kids home are nothing more than frauds, scams. If you hear somebody walking around on Facebook looking at their phone saying, I get kids home, I want you to look at them and say, no, you don't, you fucking idiot. You live broadcast on your fucking phone. That's what I want you to do. I want you to tell these motherfuckers, you don't get kids back. You just scam people, you fucking go live on your fucking phone, and you sit there and hope that people fall for your bullshit. Because that's the truth. And when these people do get involved, they're for hire, folks. A lot of people don't realize that. If you have a bitter ex, and they want to go through and they want to slander you, attack you, but they don't want to have their name attached to it, so they do it kind of dirty. A lot of these people are for hire. And a lot of them will do you're innocent until proven guilty, and I mean it's a wild west out there. That's why I said, like, I have to believe so and so's story, or else you guys are gonna ostracize me, criticize me, shun me, and I have my own questions about XYZ's story, and so at the end of the day, does not mean that I'm somehow the bad guy here. A lot of these association tactics is what I was making a clip there for exclusive content, but and I should try not to do that as often, but I kind of had a thought there. And I do know that sometimes people can push the mic and not talk. Like Miko last night, he pushed it, he still talked. It happens, but you'll find that you'll see that when you get into a subject, you're like, maybe I want to hold off exactly on how I'm saying this right at the moment. So what I can do is I can push this button right here. Does that make sense? So if you could hear what I'm saying, I can push the button, I can say what I want, I can make a quick clip, and then I can reserve that for later, something I didn't want to say here live, and I wanted to hold off on it. Like that's kind of the thing that I'm going to try to get better at. But again, yeah, no, I leave the phone line open. Last time it was filled with idiots, but or a idiot. And you can tell when people get mad. It's like, you know, you piss off this crowd and you're like, oh, I wonder why my phone's getting blown up with this. It's pretty easy to see. Shoot, like I said, I'm just hanging out shooting the shit. So we are supposed to submit to admiralty law. So real quick, I'm gonna have to make a T-shirt that says I'm a libertarian, I'm not sovereign. Because you know, as I was talking to my brother, Mr. Breedlove there, you know, it's like, okay, so. I believe that everybody has the right to substantive and procedural due process of law. Fuck, that doesn't make me a sovereign citizen because I said those words. I believe that color of law is a real thing. It's just that these people have a different understanding than I do of it. So, color of law, for example, like when I say false imprisonment, false arrest, deprivation of rights under the color of law. Very specific statements, right? False imprisonment, meaning they put you in jail for a false charge. False arrest, they detained you and arrested you without probable cause and or you know or without you actually even breaking a law, or there being no victim. And so deprivation of rights, meaning that your rights have been taken from you without your consent. You are trying to exercise a free right, a free speech, a free, exercise of your fundamental constitutional rights. Again, saying these words does not make me a sovereign citizen. Again, I preface that with, I carry a driver's license, I register my vehicle, I hold a concealed carry permit in a state where you don't need one. You know, I have never renounced my citizenship to the United States. I've never submitted court terrorism, paper terrorism to a court written with a signature in blood or a thumbprint or whatever, any of these dumb sovereign things. I like to question what I read. So, for example, just by reading the Constitution, and I wonder if it'll work while I'm live, Article 3, Section 2 of the Constitution. So, that's Section 2, Section 2 of Article 3 describes the jurisdiction. So one of the things that Miko had brought up was a lot of these sovereigns like to challenge the jurisdiction of a court. And listen, jurisdiction is basically whether or not the court has the right to hear the matter. Is it in the proper court? You don't go to traffic court for a murder. You don't go to a criminal court for a traffic ticket. You don't go to a traffic court for your custody of your children. And each court has its own procedures and processes and policies. And so a lot of sovereigns get into the confusion of whether or not the court has jurisdiction. 99.9% of the time, 99.9% of the time, a court has jurisdiction in a criminal matter only where the crime occurred. So jurisdiction is where the crime occurred. So meaning if you robbed a bank and shot somebody in California and then went to Montana, Montana courts are not going to prosecute you. You're going to be extradited to California. That's the court of jurisdiction, and that specific court is criminal court. And a lot of these courts operate differently because you don't have all your rights in all these courts, and that's just a fact. You don't have to be a sovereign citizen to go. Due process does not get upheld in a lot of these courts, at least procedurally or substantively. The right to an attorney, none of these things. The right to a trial by jury does not exist in a family court matter outside of Alex Jones in Texas. The one case I can find. So a lot of sovereigns like to challenge jurisdiction. And what that tells you is, okay, so Article 3, Section 2 of the Constitution establishes the courts, right? And so, let me make sure I get the actual text, and then, again, I'm not going to read all of this. Article 3 authorizes one Supreme Court, but does not set the number of justices that must be appointed. Let's see here. I want to find where it says admiralty jurisdiction, because again, it's in there. And if Googling words that are not I know I spelled it. Admiralty law. I know I spelled it wrong. Don't hate me, internet. Admiralty law. So when somebody says like they were lost at sea, Admiralty law or maritime law is a body of law that governs nautical issues and private maritime disputes. Admiralty law consists of both domestic law and maritime activities and private international law governing the relationships between private parties operating or using ocean-going ships. While each legal jurisdiction usually has its own legislation governing maritime matters. So when I tell you that each court has its own procedures and its own things that govern its procedures and its policies and its practices, that's where a lot of these sovereigns go, oh, I'm challenging jurisdiction because I'm a real living person. I don't belong in a court of equity. Well, that's the facts. The courts of equity are civil courts. This is when you hear somebody say, hey, that's a civil matter. That's between two civil people. That's equity. Well, this is where confusion happens with family courts and the sovereign movement, and this is where I hope I can get to Miko Hayes, is that a lot of these parents are vulnerable at that moment because, one, they just lost their kid. And again, this is coming from a guy who lost a paternity fraud case. I haven't seen my daughter in 2,000 days. I've never been charged with a crime proving me unfit to be a parent. I've never had any state take my rights. I never had a TPR. My court case was to establish paternity, and fraud took place. My child's mother lied blatantly on the stand saying I'm not the father of my child, even though I had DNA evidence. I had a judge admit that he violated my due process. And I think the reason, and so you get out of all of this garbage involved in the initial taking of your child, whatever way it may be, by a fraud or by force, either way, you're immediately swamped with, you have to basically overthrow the entire government if you want to get your child back. That's what ends up happening. You have to either submit and admit to things that might not be true. You have to either fight it and be financially drained and destroyed. God knows I've spent more than enough money to put my kids through college just from my legal processes alone already. So, I mean, at the end of the day, this is where I'm trying to take what I experienced and say, hey, this is why you're weak. Because even somebody like me who has a comprehension of what even admiralty law is and why these fucking sovereign idiots are saying this shit wrong, is because they're not actually putting it into a proper context. And this has nothing to do with, if the words just fit right, you unlock your secret treasury account. That sounds great. The right to travel. As a libertarian, I love the right to travel. And as governor, I'd go, you know what? Maybe we don't need driver's licenses. Maybe we don't need vehicle registrations for private citizens. Maybe the government doesn't need all that. Maybe we're wasting tax money on that. Maybe I'd be opposed, or not opposed. Maybe I'd be open to hearing the argument, having it. But that doesn't make me a sovereign citizen. I can't go into the traffic court and go, Your Honor, I have the right to freely travel on the roads of South Dakota. And when I first moved here, my very first narrative with my sheriff, the narrative of Dave Ackerman, involved me saying, I believe I do have the right to free travel. I do believe I have the right to not register my private vehicle. But again, at the end of the day, I recognize that right has been taken by the government. Because it is true. If you just do a little research, it is true that back in the day in South Dakota, you didn't need a driver's license. And it was the original intent of the driver's license was only for commercial vehicles. And there was a legal standard definition between traveler and driver. So if somebody from like 1815 came into this fucking world, not only would we have to explain what Kim Kardashian is, or what fucking all this stupid shit is in technology, but we'd have to explain to them if they were to get behind the wheel of a car, you need an approval from your government, and they would not understand nor recognize that, and they'd wonder why we're not shooting our governors and our senators and our politicians. And again, I preface that with, I'm not a threat to these people, I'm just saying that's the history of these people. Again, this country was founded by people willing to kill those in government over a tax. Now we're like, please don't tax me a little bit more. You know, please allow me to do this to our government, to our state, you know, or please allow me to have this freedom. I mean, and the state says no. None of that makes us a sovereign citizen. So one of the dangerous things, again, with what the sovereigns do is they take little tidbits of truth and then fill it with bullshit. And so, for example, when I say unconstitutional courts of equity, okay, unconstitutional, it goes against the Constitution. Courts, we're establishing the noun. So we have the adjective of it's unconstitutional. And what's unconstitutional? The courts. Well, which court? Equity court, civil court. So the court of civil court is acting unconstitutionally. And how so? Well, they're violating people's fundamental liberty interest, meaning their right to be a parent, without substantive or procedural due process of law. That's not sovereign citizen talk. That is all constitutional speak. And again, I'm not a sovereign citizen. And you know what? If the government turns me into a sovereign, I'll put it to you this way. Hold on. If taking an oath to support and defend the Constitution and studying and learning the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and trying to learn and articulate at least my belief and understanding in it and engaging in that conversation, again, I want to make sure it does not make me a sovereign citizen. But if the government says, well, you know, if you learn what admiralty law jurisdiction is and you learn all about all these things, we're going to label you a domestic terrorist. And I want to make sure that you understand that saying somebody's a sovereign citizen and then implying that you know, again, I want to make sure that if you say somebody's a sovereign citizen, even if you know they are, and you've heard them say, I renounce my citizenship kind of shit, what you got to do is you got to say, okay, well, at the end of the day, do I have evidence that they've renounced their citizenship? Okay, if you don't have evidence of they've renounced their citizenship and you call them a sovereign citizen, you could be risking something for your platform at best. I mean, lack of credibility, things of that nature, because you can't just call somebody a sovereign citizen and, you know, basically say, oh, you're a domestic terrorist, when all they've done is read the Constitution. And then, yeah, you know what, grabbing a Black's Law dictionary on a Friday night and doing a live stream and thinking you know about the law is not, it's not really the right way to do things. It's really not. You should go to law school if you want to be a law sayer, you know, a lawyer, a law sayer, you know. You should really go to law school so you can get an education, because you educate people. You know, keyword meaning, you know, learn. But again, it all sounds great. It all sounds great. I love the sovereign citizen conversation. I stayed up till Miko came live last night. I got the popcorn. I made some fresh tea. I grabbed myself a Rice Krispie peanut butter bar with some chocolate on top from the gas station. And I wanted to hear where he goes with it. And you know what? I think Miko, out of everybody, understands what the sovereign citizen movement is. And I've invited him to come on this broadcast. I'd split the screen up, make it look a lot more professional, because again, respect for who the guest is. You know, if he'd be willing to do that, I'd love to bring him on. You know, and it's not necessarily to trash anybody. It's just to have a conversation between what is sovereign citizen and what is questioning government, because the Libertarian Party could be, I'm sure, to the Republicans and Democrats, are just domestic terrorists with a party logo. I'm sure. But there's a big difference between being registered to vote, running for office, maintaining your citizenship, driver's license, and filing proper court documents, when, again, the bare minimum is what I would submit. If the court's like, you need to submit 3 pieces of paper and a brief paragraph on each one about what you're trying to do, I submit that, not 30 fucking pages of I'm not lost at sea. And that's what I'm trying to get at. You can know what admiralty law jurisdiction is and a quasi-constitution. You can know what those things are and still be a citizen. You can still learn what these things are. So when I say the courts of equity are operating under admiralty law jurisdiction, What I'm saying is that they're operating under these practices, policies, and procedures, meaning you don't have a right to a jury. That's why when you go to family court and they say, we're taking your kids from you or your rights from you, and you go, whoa, wait a minute. Where's a jury telling me that I'm guilty of a crime where I lose my children? That's admiralty law. So whether or not you understand it or whether or not you know what it is does not mean it's, one, not real, doesn't mean that it's not based in the Constitution, and doesn't mean that it's not being practiced, and it doesn't mean that those policies aren't in place today in certain courts where, again, fundamental liberty interests are being determined. And these courts were more meant for traffic courts. Like, oh, I backed out into the road and I hit my neighbor's car going out, and now I got to go pay him for the damage and whatnot. You know, and there's a dispute there or something. You know what I mean? That's what that court was originally intended for. This court that the family law is operating in, the way they're operating, is not based upon your constitutional right to be a parent. It's based upon equity practices. That's why they can turn you into a debt slave, i.e. child support, and you see good fathers or good mothers being put on child support, and they lose half their income, and they don't have a way to maintain their life or pursuit of happiness. They're denying fundamental rights, that life, liberty, pursuit of happiness thing. So these are all real things, and after you see it long enough, you go, okay, that's the diagnosis. We have a diagnosis of what I believe it to be, that we have unconstitutional courts of equity operating under admiralty law jurisdiction and a quasi-constitution, because you do have some rights. You do have some. And again, they're not money, but your rights are not upheld there. The only way your rights are protected are by a jury. That's it. That's the only way you have full substantive procedural due process of law when you're talking about a fundamental liberty interest, i.e. your right to be a parent. And fuck, if I say these things, I'm not a sovereign citizen. I'm just educating myself. But what I'm trying to get at, again, is the point to all this is that this is where the weakness is in the sovereign movement and people that have been fucked over by the government. Because I don't know if you know this or not, but I've never been proven unfit to be a father to my child. You guys just saw Aubrey down here. You know, I'm not a bad parent. I love my kids. It's unfortunate that I have a daughter I haven't seen in that long, and believe me, it's not from my lack of trying. It's not from my lack of trying. It's just that I've been beaten so much, financially thrown through the ringer. I mean, it's just the facts. But that doesn't make me a sovereign citizen. And I see a lot of people using that sovereign talk like it's going to be a weapon. And I want to make sure that it's used in an honorable way. You at least confirm these people renounce their citizenship. So if you're dealing with a sovereign, one of the first questions I ask is have you renounced your citizenship? And I've had many people go, yeah, CJ, I've renounced my citizenship. And I think it's the dumbest thing you can do, honestly. But if you want to separate your straw man from the corporate entity and blah, 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 like, listen, I'm not here to stop you. I'm not the guy to say, you can't renounce your citizenship. That'd be me saying, no, you have to be an American citizen. That's no better than slavery if I'm making you be a U.S. citizen. But at the end of the day, I've had plenty of people tell me, no, I'm not a U.S. citizen. I just reside in the United States. And I'm all for that, I'm all for people being able to decide. But what I'm not for is these people scamming people. You know what I mean? I'm not for it. I'm not for listening to Francesca Amato Banfield's involved in this case again, and now that person is not seeing their kid for 2,000 days. Again, that bitch accused me of murder. And it went all the way to my attorney general who I was running for governor. Yeah, we got a puppy in there. So, I'll tell you what. But yeah, that's again. I know I'm missing some stuff. I know I'm not getting into all the meat and potatoes of this right at this moment. But again, I just want to make sure that we're clear that there's a difference between being a sovereign citizen and the practices of them. You can agree with, listen, you talk to some Democrats today, and you can easily go, you know what? You know who also believed in universal health care? The Hitlers of the world. The Nazis, you know, they loved the idea of universal health care. In fact, if you were Jews, they had a special room for you to go to get the health care that they wanted you to have. I mean, so again, at the end of the day, some people agreed with that shit. Again, I'm not saying Nazis are good people. What I'm saying is that you can find ideologies that you're going to be like, oh, okay, they had, you know, damn it, they were killing Jews, but they had great farming agriculture. You know, like, that's the kind of shit I'm talking about. So, again, at the end of the day, I just took this dog out before this. So, all right. So, I'll tell you what. Again, Admiralty Law Jurisdiction, it gets people confused. But see, the thing is, okay, so a gold fringe flag is also another one I'd like to bring up. Gold fringed flag. And again, things have meaning. I mean, even when you go to Google, oops, I spelt this wrong today. All right, give me just a second here. I'm going to make sure this dog's okay. I'm going to leave you guys real quick before we get into some of the more deeper things that the sovereigns go. See, we're right. I'm going to leave you guys with the video while I take care of this dog here real quick. I sent it to Miko. I'm hoping that you guys will watch it. His name is Jordan Maxwell. And he talks about Admiralty Law. Okay, so I want to see here. Yeah, here we go. And this is from a full hour-long speech. And again, I'm going to go take care of the dog. Just for those of you who haven't seen, again, this is Jordan Maxwell speaking. And it's from an hour-long lecture. But I think you'll get the idea.
Understanding words is what you really need to start doing. You need to start doing your homework and understanding words. If you put an S in front of words, it becomes swords. And that's what words are. They are cutting. They can cause you great trouble. Humans are word-controlled creatures. So we need to establish what words mean. Again, when we talk about law, there's a Roman maximum in law that says, "For he that would be deceived, let him." Simply meaning, if you are so ignorant as to be deceived, then that's your business, that's your problem. So you need to do your homework and find out what the words mean, especially in relation to law and government. Because there is a world of occultism that is operating today throughout the world, in which you use certain words, and when those words are used in a court, they don't mean the same thing at all. Understanding law and the words of law, there are two things that this planet has: water and earth, water and land. Consequently, there are two kinds of law: the law of the land and the law of water. You've heard the term law of the land, but in point of fact, that's precisely what this word means, law of the land, because it is the people who live on land. And that is opposed to something else called the law of the high seas, or the law of water. You need to understand the difference. The law of the land is the law of the culture that lives on the land. And so consequently, the law of the land is different in every country. You can do things in America you can't do in Russia. You can do things in Africa you can't do in England. So the law of the land is the law of the culture that lives on that particular land. However, there is a higher law that dominates the entire world. It's called the law of the water, or the law of the high seas. The law of water is referred to as the law of money. It doesn't matter what color you are, where you're from, or where you live. Money is money. And anytime you're doing banking or using money, you are now under the law of water. maritime admiralty. If you go back in history, in ancient history, where all of this began, back in the land of Canaan, and you probably have heard in the Bible, the land of Canaan. The Canaanites were Phoenician bloodline, and in the ancient Phoenician language, Cana meant merchant banker. The very word merchant comes from mer, M-E-R, for the sea, for water. As a mermaid, we have merchant. Merchant bankers. Let me give an example of the difference between the law of water and the law of the land. The law of water, as I said, is a law of banking, money, as opposed to the law of the custom of the people or the law of the land. The Statue of Liberty must be put in water. It could not be put on American land as such. It had to be put in the harbor because it's not the Statue of Freedom. It's a statue of liberty. Liberty is what a sailor gets when he pulls into port on a ship. He gets liberty. He's not free. So America is not the land of the free and the home of the brave. We're not free or brave, period. We're not free. This is not a free country.
All right, so this is Jordan Maxwell. Jordan Maxwell breaks down the words, the salad. This is somebody that Kirk Pendergrass would love to talk about and be, I'm sure. Who knows? Again, I don't really know that one part, but at the end of the day, I'll share the link here for those of you guys that want to see this video, and you guys can find it here in the comments. And you can watch this. But they break down the words. And again, words do have meaning. That's a fact. We can agree to that. You don't have to be a sovereign citizen to know that words words have meaning. Well, again, that doesn't make you a sovereign citizen for learning words. Where it does make you a sovereign citizen is when you take those words and then you go and file paper terrorism, bloody fingerprints. I went to court trying to find the jurisdiction. I went to North Carolina and I was like, this is the court of jurisdiction. The law says jurisdiction is where a child resides. And they're like, nope, this is another jurisdiction. So, again, at the end of the day, the courts understand what jurisdiction is. So if you go in there challenging their jurisdiction, they've established it. The Article 3, Section 2 established it. And what I'm saying is that these are what we're seeing now with the sovereign movement is they're taking a weakness and people that are vulnerable and they're giving them this stuff. And then they're saying if you don't put a bloody thumbprint down, you're not going to ever see your kid again. If you don't give us $500, you must not love your child. They've done this stuff to people. I've literally heard it with my own ears. Well, you don't love your kid enough if you're not going to pay us $500. Well, fuck you too. I love my kid enough to keep that $500 and give it to somebody who actually is not going to get me into worse trouble than I am in now with my situation. That's what I'm trying to get at. Is these people are vicious. And you'll see them live saying that about people. Oh, they don't love their kid because they won't spend money on our services. And your services will lead to more being tased, put in a cage, declared a domestic terrorist. At the end of the day, that's just the world we live in. So they take what they say, what Mr. Maxwell here is saying, and they go and they take vulnerable people and give them all this sovereign garbage at one of their worst times in their life. And then they take advantage of it. And they use your emotions, they use your anger and your passion, and if they can't benefit them directly, they'll shun you, ostracize you, criticize you, and they've all got their little followings, and it adds up. And I'm sure there's enough people out there that just hate me just because they were told to. They've never met me. They have no idea who I am. They don't pay my bills. They don't do nothing for me. They just hate me because somebody out there in that world said, if you don't hate him, then we're gonna do the same thing to you. And that's not really a movement. That's control. That's fear. That's no better than what they claim to be fighting.
So.
Me and friends will like another snack.
No, when I'm done, I'll bring you guys one, okay?
Aww.
Oh, I just had a fruit snack.
Now I want something else.
Excuse me. So, I got enough of you guys here watching. If you want to call in, you're more than welcome to. Again, if I've mentioned your name, you're definitely welcome to call in. Never had a problem with that. Again, but like I said, if you want to sit there and you want to talk about sovereign citizens, we got to make sure that we do our due diligence to make sure we're not calling people that are clearly not sovereign citizens, because that's their new weapon. And again, as a libertarian, like I said, I love the idea of there being little to no government. In fact, I want a government so small I question whether or not there's a government at all. Does again not make me a sovereign citizen? It's like I don't agree with the federal government on a lot of stuff. I don't agree with the spending. I don't agree with the ongoing constant perpetual wars for oil and opium that I've literally been to myself. I've protected with my own body poppy fields for opioids that have been transferred to the United States and subsequently killed people. It's like, I did that not intentionally, as like I didn't go into my job as a Marine route clearance, Buffalo driver in Afghanistan going, I can't wait for this opium to get back to the United States and kill people. But we were there protecting pharmaceutical contracts. Just like in oil, we're protecting, just like in Iraq, we're protecting oil contracts. Like, I've been there physically with my own body, so I find it hilarious, that I can believe that the government's doing wrong and it should be corrected, but that's my freedom of speech to address and redress my grievance. And again, saying redress my grievance does not make me a sovereign citizen. Now, that's a right. I have the right to redress my grievances. That's the First Amendment. So, it's a whole baffling thing to me where these people get away with these scams. I think that it's hilarious. They all say that they're all being investigated. Really, it's just, they all try dumb tactics. If you find yourself involved in these sovereign attacks where again these people are trying to subject you to their unconstitutional courts, because it's the same thing. They all have their own little fake court system. They got their own kangaroo court system where they declare you guilty and your name goes on their list, and it's like, well, fuck, the government put me on a list, the sovereigns put me on a list, like, what? See what I'm saying? So, but yeah, that's my hour-long winded rant. Again, I would love to have Mr. Hayes on. Again, guy who did some incredible work out there at Standing Rock, and I just enjoy his live streams. So hopefully someday I'll have that honor to interview Miko, and we'll hopefully be able to talk about this, because again, words do have meaning. I mean, these people, I think he even gave Kirk Pendergrass the benefit of the doubt, saying if you would have gone to law school in your prime, you probably would have been a good fucking attorney. Like, I happen to know two attorneys, then they don't live in this state, and I don't ask them for legal advice, but I've seen them represent out of the kindness of their heart. I've seen them do incredible work, and so to me, a lot of these sovereigns like to think attorneys are bar members, and I don't agree with the bar. I think it should be abolished. I'd love to see making it so that lawyers can't run for office. To be a elected official, you have to renounce your bar card. These are all things that I formulate the opinion not based off of a sovereign belief that I'm pushing to a public. I make that argument based off of the fact of how these things are fucking up, and I don't think we should waste taxpayer funding on it anymore.
You know, that's why. If it fucking failed, like the war on drugs fucking failed. Stop spending money on it. You know? I say legalize it all and let, you know, Darwin sort it out, you know? But again, at the end of the day, man, I just want to come on here and shoot the shit. I got, you know, we don't have very much time left this year to do podcasts until winter comes back again. I see the snow melting outside and I go, well, it's going to be time to get back to work, bust my ass, pay my taxes. The government took my taxes again this year, my tax return. So, you know, at the end of the day, fuck the government. That doesn't make me a sovereign citizen, you know? I overpaid my taxes all year and then they're like, nope, we'll take the rest from you. So, yeah, just what a day. I just hope it doesn't go to fucking pheasants, you know? All that money they took, I hope it goes to, like, actual people that need it and not bombing children in the Middle East, you know? That's where I hope it goes to, you know? I don't have any control where my tax dollars go to. So, also I enjoy the fact that, again, nobody calls. You can, I can leave this number up, and again, anybody's welcome to call, but... hilarious. Again, admittedly, small page, don't have a huge following. You're not going to get famous off of my broadcast here, but again, at the end of the day, I do it because I love it. And when you love something, you do it, and you do it to the best of your ability. And that's what I appreciate again about Miko is, you know, he does his thing to the best of his ability, always adapting, overcoming, evolving, growing, and that's what I try to do. So. Yeah. Anybody else got anything before I go? Use your booger pickers. Get them going. If not, hold your peace, and I'll see you guys next time. But like I said, being a sovereign citizen is your choice. You can be a sovereign citizen. I'm never going to tell somebody you have to be a citizen. You have to maintain your citizenship. But at the end of the day, there are consequences to renouncing it. And what these people are doing is a scam. It is designed for you to not know what you're doing, be afraid of the system, and then while they get as much money from you as they can, they leave you with your rights abolished, your citizenship renounced, and your kids most likely never having the opportunity to ever come back to you. And so they're doing the opposite of what they claim to be doing. And again, none of them, and I mean, I challenge, all of them sit there on lives and say, oh, we get kids back. We get kids back. All of them. They just can't get your kid back. They get other kids back. They can't get your kid back. They can't do it unless you pay them money. They can't do it unless, like, you know what I mean? And so they always tell you it's somebody else's kid we got back, but yet nobody ever comes forward. Nobody comes forward on live broadcasts thanking a sovereign citizen for getting their kids back. Nobody. Yet to see one. Yet to see one. On any of them. And even the ones that are not sovereign citizens. That are just advocates. None of them. They all claim it. None of them show it. None of them. And they claim they're getting kids back because they shared an article on Facebook. Like, get out of here, you fucking idiots. Anyways. That's all I got. Who knows where we go here in the future? Who knows where we go in the world? I know a lot of people listen to my broadcasts after the fact. I start getting on these long-winded rants, and they're like, well, fuck, I jumped in at 47 minutes, and I need to know what the context is here. I get it. So I appreciate you, too. Again, there's no link in the description to send me any money. I'm not asking anybody for anything. You guys know me. If I need something, I will humbly ask for it in embarrassment and then be denied and rejected, and... yeah, it's the way the world works. And then meanwhile you go on there and you're like, this man got $80,000 to fund his cheeseburger business. And you're like, well, good for him. If I had that, I could pay these courts to stop the kidnapping of my child. So it really makes you realize the world. You become cynical. Again, these are all weaknesses that can be exploited for the sovereign citizen movement. So be smart when you're on the internet. If somebody's telling you that, you know, we're all under Admiralty law jurisdiction and the only way to get out of it is to renounce your citizenship. No, that's fucking stupid. Just know if you go to a basketball court, you're going to have to play basketball. If you go to a baseball field, you're going to be playing baseball. If you go to a football field, you're going to be playing football. If you go to an equity court, you're going to be dealing with admiralty jurisdiction. If you go to a criminal court, then you should hopefully still have your jury rights. I think a solution is to put family court into Article 3 courts. And when an allegation has been made, if an allegation of abuse or anything that could determine parental rights is in place, I think the way to remedy that problem, because again, I don't want to just sit here and bitch about the problem and not tell you what I think my solution is that I would do. But if you bring back Article 3 courts for family court, only when criminal allegations have been made in order to gain custody or an upper hand in a custody proceeding, jury trial has to be the only way to maintain one's fundamental liberty interest, and that's it. Without that, you do have a violation of due process, and at that point, it's like once due process has been violated, in any case, it can be violated in any case. It's just the way it works. I have a commissioner admitting in my court transcripts that he violated my due process, and just to get a judge to admit that is it's pretty crazy. So, you know, it just makes you go, what do you do now? So, like I said, people get vulnerable. The sovereigns take advantage. The advocates out there want to attach themselves to high-profile cases. And then the ones that are out there that see what could be coming up and see what's on the writing on the wall tend to try to adjust their platforms in order to profit from it. That's where we live. That's what we go through. So... But yeah, I hope this has been entertaining for some of you. Again, if you need to get a hold of me, number's here. I'll see it on the screen. Yeah, other than that, you guys. Well, yeah, that's about it. I got a buddy going to come over and go about my day. It's just another Monday, just hanging out. Appreciate you guys taking your time to spend it with me. And you got any questions, comments, concerns, bitches, gripes, moans, or complaints, feel free to write it on a piece of toilet paper, wipe your ass with it, flush it, and I'll let you know as soon as I get it. So have a good day or don't. Choice is always yours. We will see you guys next time on Internet Warlords, the War for... Oh, wait. Real quick. In closing... The gold fringe flag as displayed in all courts designates them as admiralty courts, which cannot hear other kinds of cases or signal that the court is operating under maritime admiralty law. This is Wikipedia. This is under the protesters' conspiracy arguments. And again, things do have meaning. This is where again I would love to have the conversation. Because, I mean, again, the sovereigns go back to this conversation. And so maybe we'll do an admiralty law flag and all that video later. But again, the yellow fringe flag, the things have meaning. You know, like it does bother me where we go, you know, words have a meaning, life has a meaning, that gold fringe flag right there, that doesn't have a meaning, that's just a pretty decoration. No, everything has a meaning based on an origin and why it's put there. We are the red, white, and blue, not the red, white, blue, and gold. You know, the war flag, the flag that designates maritime admiralty law, according to the government, in its own words, is the gold fringe flag. So a lot of people don't know that. And so when they see that, they go, oh, okay, well, no, it's just the red, white, and blue. The funny things you do, America. America, this is you. You know, like, it has nothing. It does have a specific meaning, and it does have its place and what it means. When we go and meet with world leaders, if their country is at war, if our country and their country are at war, then yeah, we have a way of displaying that to the international community. You know, again, it goes back to, you know, Okay. You can't say the red stands for blood, the white stands for the immigrants of the new nation, the blue stands for this, the stars mean that, the stripes mean this. Again, I'm not saying I'm right on all this, but you get my point. It all has meaning, but that fringe along the flag, don't question that. And if you do, you're a sovereign citizen is really stupid argument people will make. It does have its meaning, so we'll go through that. It looks like Kendall just got home for lunch, so yeah, I'm gonna go about my day. You guys have a good day or don't. Again, choice is always yours. Stay tuned for the next broadcast from Internet Warlords, the war for the Internet.
Now let me give you an example of how this law of the water works. Why is it that you have to go to court? People are always concerned about going to court. You go to court because you play basketball and tennis on a court. How do you play tennis on a court? You play with a racket. Why? Because that's what it is. It's a racket. And make no mistake, they do not pick words by chance. These words are very serious. They do not use words in terms with no avail. These words are very important. When you go into a court, what's the idea of going to court? It's a game, like basketball. The whole idea in a court is to put the ball back in the other guy's court. One team gets up and they throw the ball over to that team of lawyers. That team gets up and throws the ball back into their court. And consequently, it's a ball game. And the judge is wearing a black robe, so he is the referee. The judge is the referee. He doesn't care which side wins or loses because he's going to get paid anyway.